think the best thing is to try to come up with the synergies between all of them, because every investor is going to be looking for something different, right? I mean, there's going to be similarities, but you can never have the perfect pitch. You can't probably appease every investor at a conference or what have you. So again, my question specifically is about the product or service. How much information do you think should be shared in a short time period? Is it just a quick overview, or do investors typically want to know that a little more information to feel like they understand what it is that they're getting into? Or is it just more that discussion can happen in a one-on-one meeting, and the mathematics, the financials are more important, the competitive landscape is more important? Just if you could share your thoughts on that, I'd appreciate it.
Mira, yo creo que depende de dos cosas. Depende de qué tanto tiempo tengas para esa presentación, y depende también de qué tan conocido es tu producto o tu servicio. Hay cosas que requieren muy poca explicación porque es muy claro para todos, ¿no? Hay cosas que sí requieren demasiada explicación. Entonces, si tienes el tiempo, si estás constrained, que tienes 15 minutos, pues a lo mejor no quieres destinar más de 2 o 3 en explicar eso, porque quieres asegurarte que vas a cubrir al menos tangencialmente todos los otros puntos. Y si tu producto o servicio no es tampoco muy complejo, no quieres destinar mucho tiempo en eso, ¿no? Entonces yo creo que siempre tiene que ser una parte proporcional a tiempo que tú vas a tener, pero en ningún caso quizá más de un 20-30% del tiempo total, ¿no? No sé si alguien más quiere.
Yeah, and just one thing, I mean, you've got 1 or 2 minutes, but you really have to make sure the investor's light bulb goes off. In order to do that, most of the investors, you got to assume, don't understand what your product does. So you got to bring it down to very simple terms. So in order to do that, I always like to bring up a competitor or something that they can relate to. So for instance, in California, we have a burger joint, a hamburger stand called In-N-Out Burger, which is very popular. And if I was to describe what In-N-Out Burger to you guys is, I would say it's like McDonald's, except all we do is serve hamburgers, no chicken, and everything is made fresh. We cook the potatoes right there, and everything is flame grilled, while McDonald's is fried. Now you can understand it, and I just said it in 10 seconds, essentially. And then you can dive in deeper if they really get it from there. But you have to get the initial light bulb, because in his mind, he's going to try to relate it to something that he understands. Oh, so you're doing it that, like, similar to the, one company I'm working with right now is this big, complex, artificial intelligence way to get products from mobile better and find things better. I can't figure it out, but what I say, it's like Google for mobile phones. It's mobile search essentially for Google, essentially, and it makes people understand what it is quickly. And you have to get that light bulb to pop up, and if it doesn't happen, the rest of the presentation is not going to work anyways.
And just adding to his point as well, I think it's difficult in an environment in which you're pitching the idea to 20 different people, but to the extent you're speaking directly to one potential investor, it's very important to be reading the audience. And, different investors have different backgrounds. For me, I'd focus exclusively or mainly on the financials. And from there, I'll tell the story. Somebody else will be looking at the operations. And from there, they'll tell the story. So, it's important to be able to kind of read it and craft the message based on your audience. And I think another important message is at a high level when you're thinking about these presentations is, the deck has all the information you need about the company. But at a high level, the pitch is what you're trying to construct is a closet, a framework. This is the operations, this is the HR, this is a marketing strategy, this is the P&L. And then let the investor guide you by asking more deeper questions. And it's basically opening the drawer with much more information in there. But at a high level, it's important for you to be able to do what's called an elevator pitch, which is basically you're in the elevator with somebody in 30 floors down, you can give them the overview and say why it's pretty compelling to do, and then they'll make the follow-up.
Just quickly, I would say I would do enough to make sure it's clear how it solves the problem, right? So focusing on it from that perspective as opposed to giving a general description of this is what it is. It's, it's like McDonald's, except it solves the problem of people want something that's really fresh and that they can connect to, and it has this 1950s exterior that makes you feel like you're coming back to another time. I mean, whatever it is, but it's something that relates back to the problem you're solving. Also, in the context of a 10-minute pitch, we generally assume that your technology, product, or service works, right? So on a very basic level, so not having to explain the mechanics of, oh, this, you know, for example, your technology, the bio company of, we assume that if you say that it replaces a pesticide and does this, that, and the other, we'll believe you, and then in the due diligence process it'll come out, okay, does this actually work as efficiently as he projected or whatnot? But yeah, I would just be saying focus on how it's going to solve the problem you're putting forward.
Quería comentar breve también que, y perdonen que vuelva al mismo tema, pero él lo trajo, y es lo de la competencia. Ahí aplica muchísimo también, porque cuando usted le habla a alguien de su competidor, automáticamente, bueno, no necesariamente siempre, pero en la mayoría de los casos, esa persona a quien usted le está hablando conoce a ese competidor o ha escuchado del competidor y va a asociar el producto suyo con algo que a lo mejor no tiene que después pasar esos 3-4 minutos explicando el producto en tanto detalle. Así que volviendo a ese punto de los competidores, pues ayuda en diversas formas, ¿no? Y otro punto que quería traer relacionado, que es que estuve pensando luego de que acabamos de presentar, si usted mira en este panel, y esto más va al aspecto de la regionalización y globalización del planeta donde estamos viviendo. Jorge opera aquí en Nicaragua, en Managua, pero el resto de nosotros no estamos aquí, pero estamos aquí. O sea que lo que quiero transmitir es que hoy en día es tan y tan clave, y esto yo creo que en Estados Unidos, en mi opinión, y particularmente en California, lo veo que ocurre mucho y es muy positivo, y es que el emprendedor siempre está pensando desde que nace quizás es porque pues Estados Unidos es un mercado muy amplio, ¿verdad? Ya tienes 300 millones de personas, pero están pensando siempre en global. Y yo creo que el hecho de que en este panel la mayoría de las personas no sean de Nicaragua, ya les demuestra a ustedes pero estamos aquí, estamos hablando con ustedes, tenemos interés. Eso significa que estamos viviendo un mundo que es extremadamente global. Ya las comunicaciones ha cortado todo lo que antes era imposible. Ya todo es posible con la comunicación. Así que siempre vengan a las presentaciones pensando cómo le demuestro a este inversionista de que mi compañía tiene escala, puede escalar y lo va a lograr. Quería hacer ese comentario aunque estaba un poco fuera de la pregunta.
Hi, thank you very much for all the feedback. I think it's been very helpful. I think one question that probably is deep in the back of every entrepreneur's mind when they're pitching is how transparent do you pitch? And what I mean by that is, at least in our experience so far, and I suspect that I speak for others, when you're trying to build something from scratch, when you're trying to bring something into the world that sits in your head, sometimes it feels as if everything conspires against the realization of that vision, meaning that it sometimes feels like there's an all-out assault to bring it down. Nobody's doing it on purpose, but the world likes to make it tough on entrepreneurs. And as a result, there is no point in our history, and I'm sure with the others in the room, where there hasn't been an absolute mountain of work and challenges in front of us. And that's the reality of what we go to bed with. That's the reality of what we wake up with. That's what keeps us up at night. That's what makes it difficult to rest easy. Most of the businesses in this room are seeking capital, which means they don't have flush financials or balances to go out and find resources which solve their problems quickly. So I would be curious, in the context of a pitch, in the context of an investor presentation, in the context of an initial meeting or or future meetings where you think the right time, the right place is to really sort of sit down and have a heart-to-heart on the real challenges of each of the businesses, because they exist, and to suggest that they don't, to me, would seem delusional. And in order to form a healthy partnership between entrepreneur and investor, you know, the conversations we've had at least have been, we want to build this business with you. We want to lock arms. We want to do this together. And there's only a certain point in the dialogue where that suggestion is appropriate. So I would be curious to know where in the process you guys suggest the entrepreneur shares in a way that invites partnership, rather than sort of puts on the necessary and important sort of initial facade of, we've got a really great thing, the world wants it, we can't make enough of it, or our single barrier is capital, and you can help us solve that challenge.